plug it here. I don't know. Take it off.
Oh. So I wanted to share a time just recently that we bought some chickens. We got 5 thinking if we lost 1 or 2, you know, we'd still have 3 that would produce eggs. But the problem with some of these hens you buy, you've got different colors that tell you if they're going to be a hen or not. We got 3 that were cinnamon queens, meaning they were for sure going to be hens. And we got 2 what they call straight runs, which means they don't know. It could be a hen or a rooster. Well, turns out after taking care of these chicks, feeding them, you know, letting them or buying feed for them, and making sure the lamp was warm enough, they had clean water every day. I mean, it was a lot to take care of these chicks as they grow up, and they're a little bit more self-sufficient once they get older. But they're so delicate, and I just wanted to make sure I was taking care of them. And as they grew up, 2 months, we didn't have any eggs, we're still waiting. 3 months, no eggs, still waiting. It was the 4th month that they finally produced some eggs, and we're real excited about that. Unfortunately, the dog killed one of the pullets before it became a hen, so we lost one of our cinnamon queens. But we still had the 2 straight runs. We weren't sure what they were. Oh, these guys are having a good time golfing. Here's the Flying W Airport. A really neat airport where you can go rent some planes. They have a swimming pool and a restaurant. I got one of my ATP exams done there. Looks like that one airplane right there has had some trouble. Maybe it's parked for a little bit. Oh, this looks like a new cemetery that they're grooming. Really nice. Right near the airport, so that works. I don't think the noise is going to be a problem. Unless, of course, they're having a service. It reminds me on base of the Air Force, sometimes there's a NOTAM put out of a quiet hour or a ramp freeze. And they do that so that if there's a ceremony or a promotion or something, there's not airplanes screaming low altitude causing problems for the people who are trying to speak at the event. There was one time I was flying to Andrews Air Force Base in a C-17, and we had a NOTAM not to take off until the ramp freeze was over at Andrews based upon a distinguished visitor who was going to take off soon. So they had a ramp freeze, meaning no one could land there. Well, after that expired, we took off, and on our way to Andrews, the tower calls us and says, or the controller says, hey, there's a ramp freeze right now. You're gonna have to hold for 15 minutes. So we said, okay. We had about 20-25 minutes of holding. After about 15 minutes, I'm like, all right, we've got about 5 more minutes until we need to land. So I call the controller. I'm like, hey, what's our expected land time? We're about done here. And he says, well, we're going to need you to hold for at least 15 minutes. And I said, oh boy, we're going to have to divert right now. We don't have enough fuel for that. So we had to divert, of all places, to Baltimore, which is, in hindsight, not the best place to divert because there's a lot of commercial traffic in and out of there, and it took us a long time to get refueled and take off again. It was just a 5-minute flight to Andrews from Baltimore, but because of the routing, it ended up being a 20-minute flight. So, go figure. Oh, these kids love it. They're all jumping up and down, enjoying their soccer game. What's up? So anyway, back to the chicken story. So it's definitely a good time when they finally started laying eggs, because Jordan was so excited to get the eggs in the morning, and we enjoyed them. It started to pay off until we realized that one of the hens was not a hen. You know, they kind of have a larger comb, the roosters do, and a little bit of a larger neck, a little bit bigger, but you never really know for sure until they start to crow. Well, I was on a trip, and Kelsey texts me, or she calls me, she's like, yep, I think our hen Goldie has finally started to crow. And I'm like, you know, are you sure? Because it could have been like a cluck, but yep. Come to find out, when I came home, it was definitely a rooster. Well, the problem in our subdivision is that roosters are banned because of the noise. So you can have chickens, but you can't have roosters. So now we have a problem. And I'm telling Kelsey, I'm like, we're gonna have to, like, you know, get rid of this chicken. So we didn't know if we should just, you know, toss it out with the garbage, or if we should actually cook them up. And, you know, I didn't want to get my hands dirty. I'm a city boy. I'm not really used to slaughtering animals for meat. But, you know, I'm like, it's Christmas time. Christmas is right around the corner. I'm like, let's do it. I'm going to go ahead and YouTube, figure out how to kill this chicken, start plucking its feathers, gut it, and then give it to Kelsey to cook, to get some chicken for the holidays. Oh, check out this giant pumpkin here. That's pretty cool. Oh, it's a big pumpkin patch. Oh, nice. Have to come here and get some pumpkins. At the airfield I just took off at Allen's, they have a pumpkin drop competition to see from an airplane how close to a target you could get. Pumpkin drop. Oh, and there's a corn maze there. That's really cool. Nice. I'm going to drop down by this football field over here, and then I'll start to loop around and we'll head back. So what I really remember about the chicken story is when I took the rooster out to the backyard, I tried to put him in this box while I cut his throat with the sharpest knife I had. Come to find out, as I'm cutting, it's not very sharp. So the poor chicken is having a tough time dying. He was fighting and fighting, and I lost my grip, and he was fluttering around the box, and blood was just splattering everywhere. It got on me, it got on my gloves, got all over the box. It was a mess. So I should have just gotten an axe and chopped its head off and let the blood run out. But, you know, lesson learned is to get a really sharp knife. But, you know, I just remember how bright the blood was. And it brings me to a thought about blood that's used in the Bible. You know, a lot of things in the time of the Israelites were symbolic and had meaning. And in Leviticus it tells us that we're not allowed, or tells the Israelites they're not allowed to eat the blood, that they have to drain it and then bury it in the earth, and that if you eat the blood of an animal, you're ceremonially unclean, and you need to be clean before you could come back to where all the people were in the community. So it's very important not to eat blood, because the life of the animal is in the blood. You know, and sometimes a family would raise a lamb. And remember, in order to sacrifice a lamb on the altar, it had to have no blemishes. So they would take care of it. They would sometimes keep it close by the house. And when it came time to sacrifice it, they would go and they would sacrifice it on the altar. And it just shows how important it was to take care of what you're about to sacrifice and eat. And that was very important to God, that they do it the right way, exactly how they were supposed to. Because if they did it the wrong way, that could affect whether the offering was accepted by God or not. And in the New Testament, we come to the part of the story where the ultimate sacrifice was given by God, which was his only son. And his son was sent to earth for us for a reason. He was unblemished, he had no sin, and he was sacrificed for the forgiveness of our sins if we were to believe in him and obey his commands. This is so important because in the Israelites' day, they knew exactly what it cost to sacrifice an animal. And when Jesus is recognized as the sacrifice for us once and for all, it just shows how important the process was leading up to his crucifixion and how important the blood is that he spilt for us. And today, every week on Sunday, we remember that blood by taking communion. We take a piece of the bread, which represents his body, and we take the grape juice, which represents his blood, and we remember when Jesus sacrificed himself for us. That looks like a Air Force equivalent of a KC-10. It's a MD-11 with 3 engines, and I was fortunate enough to go in one when I was in Germany. The last time I was in Germany on a mission, we parked next to a UPS aircraft, and the pilots asked if they could come on board in C-17. It was funny seeing them, kind of amazed by the HUD and, kind of impressed by the C-17. And then they invited me to go to their aircraft, and here I am on their aircraft amazed at their, how nice their seats are, and they have recliners in the back. It was a neat experience that, you don't get too often. There's an aircraft on low approach. Make sure I stay off his left. And I can stay low, so I'm not a factor. That's about a 30-minute flight so far. So I just wanted to share that story of the time I had to kill Goldie. It took me so long to pluck his feathers. I didn't have a pot big enough to boil his whole body, so I had to put half of them in, pick his feathers, and put the other half in, pick his feathers. I had feathers everywhere. The kitchen was just all messy. Jordan was always wondering, what's going on. I tried to shield him from some of it, because you don't want to expose him to death and dying at 3 years old, I guess. But, kids grow up fast when they experience that kind of thing. And I think it was a good experience overall. He still asks when we have chicken, are we going to eat Goldie? Are we eating Goldie? I'm like, no, Jordan, we already ate Goldie. One thing I will say that a whole lot easier just to go to Costco and pick you up a $6 chicken. But, it's the experience. I'll always remember that. Specifically the blood, how bright it was, how important it is for the chicken, but also as Christians, how important blood is represented in the Bible and how Jesus gave his blood for us and how we remember that every week. There's Bill flying around. Let's go, let's play chicken, you and me. You go left and I'll go right. Okay, you go right, I'll go left. Nice, Bill, nice. Oh, I just love these beautiful colors of the trees. some deer. You know, funny story, not so funny though at the time, but last night I was driving to a basketball game and I was almost there. It was about 5 minutes away, and I was kind of brushing my hair with my hand, and all of a sudden, bam! The side of my car on the driver's side, it was just this huge noise. It scared me. I literally was like, ah! And I pulled over, I slowed down, I rolled down the window, I look back. It's pitch black, by the way. It's at night. I look back and I see 5 deer cross the road, barely, because it was dark, after I got hit. So I pull over, I try to get my flashlight, I try to see if there's any damage, and there's definitely some denting going on, but not like crazy. But boy, it sounded like a lot. This deer just pounded the side of my car out of nowhere. I mean, there's really nothing I could have done. It was pitch black. He didn't drive, or he didn't run in front of me. He just ran into my car as I was driving by, and he seemed to have gotten up because I didn't see a deer laying around, and I didn't see any blood on my car either. So hopefully he's all right.